available at the Walkers Road or Boddentown location. We also accept transfer prescriptions from other pharmacies. More than just a pharmacy, shop ValueMed for personal care and beauty products from trusted brands, perfume and gift sets, Hallmark and greeting cards, baby clothes, footwear, handbags, swimwear, home decor, toys, school supplies, and stationery. And home convalescence aids like wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, canes, and hospital beds. With 2 locations to serve you, Walkers Road in Georgetown and in Evron Plaza, Boddentown. Visit ValueMed, more than just a pharmacy.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Mary Ann Radmacher once said, "As we work to create light for others, we naturally light our own way."
Calling all CICSA members. The Cayman Islands Civil Service Association Annual General Meeting is Friday, February 21st at the GAB Downstairs Conference Room 1038, starting at 12:15 p.m. A light lunch will be provided.
Come out and vote for your 2020 Management Council. Hear the President give his annual report, ask your questions, share your ideas, and make suggestions. You can also email your questions in advance of the meeting to cicsa@gov.ky. There will also be a door prize raffle of Cayman Airways vouchers, and the first 35 persons to sign in at the meeting will get a free gift.
Members, please make every effort to attend this very important upcoming annual general meeting. Remember, it's Friday, February 21st at the GAB Downstairs Conference Room, room 1038, starting at 12:15 p.m. Hope to see you there.
For the health of it, Radio Cayman's premier health show is brought to you by Healthcare Pharmacy, the Cayman Islands Civil Service Association, Holy Cross Hospital,
Cayman Fertility Center,
and EatingClean.com.
This is For the Health of It with Tara Bush.
Get ready, gamers, for 6 weeks of non-stop competitive action. The Cayman Islands Esport Association is proud to announce the first ever FIFA E-League. Starting February 1st. Compete for the gold on FIFA 20 for the PS4 every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Boddentown Civic Center. Sign up today at CaymanEsports.org. Competitor fee is just $75 and includes your own jersey and swag bag. Spectators are free, so come out and enjoy the world of esports. Proudly sponsored by Gamers Bay, NetGeeks Media, CUC, Kimpton Seafire, and the Cayman Islands Youth Services Unit.
The FIFA E-League is also sponsored by Radio Cayman.
Good morning. Time now for the latest weather report. Synopsis indicate light northerly winds and slight to moderate seas are expected across the Cayman area for the next 24 hours as a cold front moves over the central Gulf of Mexico. Now, the front is expected to become diffuse over the Cayman area tomorrow morning. Radar images show isolated showers in and around the Cayman area moving west. Now, the forecast for today calling for partly cloudy skies with a 20% chance of showers, and temperatures will be in the mid-80s. Your winds will be north at 5 to 10 knots, and seas will be slight with wave heights of 1 to 3 feet. A forecast for tonight calling for partly cloudy skies becoming cloudy at times, with a 30% chance of showers, and temperatures falling to the mid-70s tonight. Your winds will be north to northwest at 5 to 10 knots this evening, becoming 10 to 15 knots from later tonight. Seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Some swells are likely along the west coast from later tonight. Today's high tide will occur this morning at 8 minutes past 9, low tide this afternoon at 3:13, and a high tide again tonight at 8:43. The sun will set this evening at 6:26 and will rise tomorrow morning at 6:50. And the outlook is calling for moderate fresh to north-northwest winds and rough seas from tomorrow afternoon as the associated high-pressure system builds over the eastern United States. That's the very latest on your weather report.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
Good morning once again. Let's take a look what's happening on our roads. Traffic is heavy coming from the east on Shamrock Road and bumper-to-bumper traffic on the Linford Pearson Highway. A lot of patience needed this morning as delays are expected. Traffic also busy coming off of the Linford Pearson Highway on Agnes Way. And traffic steady in some sections of Cool Road, other section busy traffic. And traffic flowing along moderately on North Sound Road and Edward Street and Shedden Road. Not looking too bad as traffic flowing nicely. Light traffic coming from the Westway four-way stop as well as on Owen Roberts Drive. And steady traffic coming off of Bobby Thompson Way. Godfrey Nixon Way and Eastern Avenue, traffic flowing pretty good. That's the very latest on your traffic. Join us again. At about 10 minutes after 12, we'll give you another traffic outlook. Remember, click it or ticket.
You know what goes perfect with tuna? Bacon. That's why Subway's adding bacon to our delicious tuna sandwich. It's the Tuna BLT. At just 540 calories for a 6-inch, you'll love this mouth-watering combination of flavors. Subway's tasty tuna sandwich is simply sumptuous on its own, but add bacon and it's out of this world delicious. After all, bacon and tuna are perfect together. Stop by any of Subway's 7 locations today and get the Tuna BLT. Subway. Eat fresh.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
If your business is over here, but your customers are over here, adding more yellow to your business will bring you both right here. With everyone searching yellows, print, online, and mobile app, getting your business noticed is easier than ever. Book your consultation today at findyellow.com.
Preventing dengue is as simple as preventing mosquito bites. Use a mosquito repellent, wear protective clothing, and stay indoors during early dawn and dusk when mosquitoes are most active. Control the places around you where mosquitoes breed. Remove stagnant water in outdoor and household settings. As a weekly habit, persons should change the water in vases, clear the water in saucers under potted plants, and ensure air conditioner drip trays are free of stagnant water. Outdoor objects capable of holding water should be kept empty and preferably disposed of or put into dry storage if not used. These include open bottles and tins, watering cans, buckets, empty paint tins, and old vehicle tires. Do your part to control the spread of dengue. The dengue virus is an infectious disease transmitted through mosquito bites. Symptoms may come on as early as 4 days or as late as 3 weeks following an infection. There is no vaccine or specific medication to treat dengue. Symptoms of dengue include high fever, headache, pain behind the eyes, joint and muscle pain, and rash. If persons have any of these symptoms, they should go to the nearest health center or hospital. It is advised to drink lots of liquids and avoid medication that contains aspirin.
For the record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Save the Queen. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, Deputy Leader of the Opposition, MLA Mr. Alva Suku, and of course he represents the constituency of Newlands in our Legislative Assembly, and MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan, who represents the constituency of Georgetown Central in our Legislative Assembly. Before we went to the break, we were talking about the recent court decision in relation to the cruise port referendum, and we were talking about the creation of a referendum law, specific referendum law as required in our Constitution. We're also talking about one of the requirements in terms of registration, the long period for registration as an elector for a general election, and we do have quarterly cycles for registration, and what was evidenced during the referendum discussions, and was the fact that some people would have been disenfranchised as a result of the quarterly registration process that we have. Off air, we were talking about the possible changes to that. We did mention the fact that some of the things that have to be addressed when it comes to registration has to do with the archaic process. And I say that reservedly because there are several jurisdictions that still have that in place, where there's a period for claims and objections. There's a revising officer who looks over it. But in the Cayman Islands, we have heard recent calls. Your leader of the opposition, Dr. Steve McField, and others have called for the creation of an election commission. Of course, there will be political appointments on there to the effect that the leader of the opposition and as well as the premier would be allowed to appoint members to that commission. But in terms of the chair, it should be a political position, and at the end of the day, it should be an electoral commission that is totally independent.
Agreed. If I could just pick up on that, where we were leaving off in respect to the question before the break. One of the concerns, like you highlighted, was the timeline for persons to get registered to be a part of a referendum process and be able to vote in it. And you asked if there would be differences between the elections law and the referendum law. I don't think that would make any practical sense. So the logical conclusion then is that when creating the general law, I'm assuming that whatever provisions they would put within the general law for the referendum would be something that would be duplicated within the elections law as well. But you have highlighted a very important point about, is this the perfect opportunity for elections commission, which the government and the opposition and many previous legislators have all agreed that we need. It just seems to me that governments in the past and currently right now are not putting it as a priority. We are now 15 months away exactly from a general election. Unless the government calls it early in November and put it back to where it was, we're 15 months away. Whether they'll put this as a priority or not, I'm not convinced that they would. I would be impressed if they did. I think they may actually be potentially forced to do so, because it would make no sense just to do the general law on the referendum but leaving out the other ones. Like, why not take the same opportunity to do the commission? Why not take the opportunity to update the archaic elements of the elections law at the same time, because they surround the same concerns within these various different areas. But this is going to take some time, because it's going to take a strong debate, because many people have different ideas as to the strength and what provisions need to be in each one of these sections of the law, how the commission will work, the appointments, what strength and abilities it has. So there'll be much debate. That takes time, research, and all the other things to do with it. And most governments in the last 15 months, they got other priorities, which is getting elected or trying to show off of what they did or didn't do. So sadly, usually you don't get these things changed unless a government puts a priority on it early in their administration. The only hope now is actually the government concedes to the recommendations of the court to say, listen, you have to deal with this. It's important. If they don't, I'm going to be disappointed, but I'm not surprised, because this is quite the thing that they do. But in the interest of the most important part for me throughout this process is the voter registration. I truly believe in the equal opportunity for young people to get registered. And what I found throughout my two election cycles, the one when I lost first and the one now, is that many young people are not inspired about politics until way after the deadline has passed, the current deadline, because as you said, it's a quarterly, but usually it's actually 2 quarters before they actually fall on the list. And most young people get inspired by are wanting to get involved in politics after they've heard much debates and political meetings and when things start to heat up around the cooler talking in the office or at work or at home, usually that spark of discussions about the political future doesn't happen till after nomination day or close to that date, which is 6 weeks away from the actual election, when the cutoff date for registration would have been probably about 4 months earlier. So I am really, really hoping that we can get some changes to how speedily people can get registered. So when the young people do get inspired, or anybody for that fact, go, you know what, I probably should get registered. Because some people, unfortunately, feel that, they don't believe in the electoral process. They believe that, no matter who they elect, things are not going to change. And sometimes by the time you get to a point where, listen, I want to give you something to believe in, the deadline prevents them from doing that. So that's one of the biggest things for me that I would like to see changed.
Okay, we have a caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I just love these discussions and stuff. What I hope and pray for the Cayman Islands is that when we go to make amendments and, we go to do our Constitution, which is such an important document that, it is cross every T and dot every I, that we don't have these things like what transpired this week, that people are going to court because they feel that something is wrong and that they need justice, because that is unnecessary spending for the country. And I think that, we can all come together and put our heads together, and when changes are going to be made, it should come out to the general public and, people have their input, and then, maybe these things would not transpire in the future.
Okay.
So that's my comment on that. The other thing is, me, I'm going to have a community announcement, and that is for the baby show, the agricultural show on Wednesday. The deadline is scheduled for today, but I will make an extension until Monday, because on the day there is no registration. So, and it's for babies 0 to 48 months, boys and girls. My number is 929-9932. So 929-9932. Contact me. Get your form in by Monday, the latest.
And what time of the day? What time of the day during the show will the contest take place?
Yeah, it is 11 o'clock in the morning.
Uh-huh.
So the show starts. The baby show is at 11. So far we have, I think it's like 12 or 13 babies.
Wow.
But usually we have, 20 and all. So I just want to get the number out, 929-992, and, I have the forms. Can send them to you by email, and you get them right back to me. So
excellent.
Do that, because we always get, people showing up that day. And why we don't take registrations on the day of the event is because we print a program with all the babies' names and on them, and we do certificates of participation. That we hand out that day and everything, and we need to be able to know, exactly how many prizes we need and all that kind of stuff. So Monday is the deadline, and we want people to know that we invite them to enter their babies 0 to 48 months, boys or girls, in the 53rd Annual Agricultural Show, Baby Show.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Before I ask you to comment on what you said in relation to the political process, we have another caller, so let's grab that caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Rambo.
Hey, morning, Rambo. How are you?
Yeah, but keep my composure, holding it down. Give me 2 minutes on, be fast and swift, right? I got aware that a police officer, right, he was charged for larceny there. Right, a woman property, right, an elderly woman with her vision. You're aware of that, right?
Yes.
Okay. This is my dilemma now. my mother property, right? I bought it on my mother property, right? When I was not word now, right? No other part, if I strike my name and my mother's name, and my name, right, out of it, where I come from. Born in uniform now, right? So the point to me now, the whole place, my mother, everything good, yeah? The divide away. The judge divide away. I put my fence up. And my parents, my vinyl screen, bird together, flock together. My grandfather tell me, the climate is the bird, be careful. On my less age, going on 13, right? Back in 97. On the port issue, Miss OC, right? And like I say again, the buyer's remorse, I don't hear nothing. But like a lot of associates of mine, they signed a petition for the PPR affiliation, right? And a lot of my schoolmates, so like how the democracy. But like I say again, all this OC, I'm not losing no night rest over it. Whatever the outcome, no insomnia. You understand? Yeah? And like I say again, you see, with the EU now, right? They are aware that about 100 jurisdictions, we share information with them, right? They go now with this red card about, secrecy and anonymous, you understand? Because they want power grab, you understand? People like them now, they evaluate your business, no? And they're assessing your right to counteract the interest. And like I say, one thing I say, the pension now, the ordering or money. I got two pensions. The order of money in shares and gamble it for the interest. You know where I'm from? So we can put something parallel with that, right? And from now on, like we're supposed to on the airwaves, let me vocal, right? But I have to limit my condition on the airwaves. So, but I still in part listening.
Yeah. No, you should continue to express your views and the way you feel. It is a democracy, and you're free to voice your opinions as long as they're not defamatory in any way. Continue to speak. I think people have a lot of respect for what you have to say.
I mean, like, 95% of people in the Cayman community, they appreciate it, young and old, right? Despite the demographic age. It's supposed to be, like I said again, on top of my property, right? When I went to an NRA meeting, the CEO certificate of occupancy, nobody can reside here. But without not where you evict my tenants and come in and live here before, you understand? But I think I have to know few of our controversy.
Yep.
So that's that, right? But like I said again, Mr. OC, we need other alternatives, revenue alternatives, right? Right? With the legalize the herbs. I mean, really fast lead, right? So see, the world imploding, right? I don't know if you want to be colonization, but we need inquest for independence. I mean, it's a scary tactic, but it's a reality check. You understand, Ms. Osi?
All right.
Have a good weekend, sir.
Thank you very much, Rambo. You have a good weekend as well. Time for us to take a commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
2020 means perfect vision. And if you have your sights set on driving a new hybrid, then the time is now to check out the new RAV4 and CHR. Hold up. Just two of the many hybrid models that Vamped is bringing to Cayman. Whether you're looking for a smoother and quieter way of driving or want a car that maximizes fuel efficiency while minimizing emissions, there are lots of ways a new hybrid from Vamped can make the difference in your life. Hybrids save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries without being plugged in. So focus your 2020 vision on a new hybrid from Vamped Motors, and we will see you through. Come to Vamped, home of the hybrid, located on Walkers Road.
Start getting your debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Rotary Club Central, in association with the Cayman Islands Health Services Authority, HSA, present Health Check 2020. Free health check, free mini medical consultation, diabetes, hypertension, and much, much more. Saturday, March 7, 10 a.m. through 2 p.m. Nurses, doctors, Rotarians in service to you. The Rotary Health Check 2020 at A.L. Thompson's, Foster's Airport and Countryside, Foster's Republics, and Kamana Bay. Costs you less. And Hurley's Supermarket. You may save your life. Rotary Central Health Check 2020. Your life, your health. Rotary, connecting the world.
System 1 loaded. 1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning none other than Deputy Leader of the Opposition and MLA, Mr. Alva Suku. Also with us, MLA, Mr. Kenneth Bryan. Gentlemen, you want to comment on the last two callers?
Well, unfortunately, I missed the first caller. I missed half of her first point. So, yeah. But I think I got the gist of her summary, which was, government shouldn't be wasting money and time appealing. And I agree with that sentiment. I think we should, if we're going to use time and money, now let's address the issues pointed out by the courts and fix those. That would be a better use of public funds and time. So, I'm hoping that the government will take some time to consider. And I know the Premier did say he was going to consider what he did next, but I think he also hinted strongly at an appeal. I think maybe Cabinet should discuss this and decide, well, no, let's address these concerns. Because what we don't want, OC, we got to look at the bigger picture. And what we don't want is a black eye or any sort of question or doubt hanging over our electoral process.
Yes.
And I think the best way to deal with these issues, and I've heard some of the veteran politicians say it, and I've heard some of the new politicians say it as well. Let's start using the select committees of the House. Let's work together. Create a committee, appoint a chairperson, and have people from both sides of the aisle working on the issue together, and
bring in the outside experts as well. You have the Electoral Boundaries Commission. You have Dr. Steve Macfield, who's a member, of that. Bring in former supervisors of elections, get their views.
I know
as well.
Yeah, I know of one of those that would probably.
Yeah, I know a good one too. Mr. Kerner Gomez, he knows it.
But you're right, because the select committee setting allows you to bring in experts. Because we're not all experts. Although we're elected, the people have chosen us. A lot of us didn't get elected for being an expert in certain areas. It's and that people have to understand about politicians. You get lucky sometimes that you find those who are very well qualified, but you can also have people elected who are and what we are members of a House of Commons in the Cayman Islands. Basically, we represent the commoners, and that is where that comes from, the House of Commons. So you're not expecting to elect experts in subject matters. You're expected to elect people who are going to represent the interests of the people. Yep. So let's bring in the experts and work with them. Every time that this administration has taken that approach, we've had very good success. If you look at the constitutional changes, when we took the collaborative approach and we worked together, we got a lot accomplished. So why not continue building on that? It doesn't always have to be tit for tat and I'm going to one-up you and let's save that for the campaign. Because we're all here to work for 4 years. And I think that's where people start to lose their confidence in us, as well as when we spend too much time bickering, which is why, leading into the next subject, we didn't come out so hard in our statement on the EU listing, because we still have to show solidarity with the government and support our financial services. But I'm pretty sure Mr. Bryan has something to add to.
Well, I mean, as you know, OCM, I'm a pretty straight shooter. And I am not satisfied at all with the fact of what has transpired in respect to the EU listing. And I think there's a little bit of ambiguity in the public domain as to how we got to this stage. There needs to be some accountability held in respect to this. And let me put some background to the circumstances. We are one of the greatest financial services industries countries in the world. We are the envy of this sector. And we have known for decades that there are outside forces who want to see us fail. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, I think every administration knows quite clearly that there are people out there to hope that we fall or potentially plant things in our way to make us fall in respect to this matter. So we should have been on our P's and Q's at all times. And when you were dealing with the recommendations and the requirements for us to not find ourselves in this kind of listing that we're in now, with the timelines given, I think we should have met those timelines no matter what the circumstances are. There were provisions available to this administration that they could have used to make sure we met those timelines. The governments will use it when they feel it necessary, like the suspension of the standing orders for the 21-day notice. I've heard the alluding to the fact that we missed it by a few days. We could have suspended the standing orders to make it be 14 days or 7 days if that was something that you predicted to be a concern. Mm-hmm. The fact of maybe not allowing the opposition members the full 21 days, say, I'm only going to give you 10, in the better interest of the country, because potentially being listed in this way that we are now is more severe than you actually missing 7 more days to look at the bills. So I find it disturbing that there seems to be this muddled message that we're sending to the country, as if to say that there's not somebody or a group of individuals who are responsible for the fact that we are now on this list. We had a simple task, was to create the legislation. Let me rephrase that. It's not a simple task at all. It's actually a very, very complicated task. And we have a very complicated legislative structure to deal with this very complicated industry. So it is a difficult task, but not a task that was not capable of you doing. So I want to know, what was the reason, in plain English, no muddling around with words about this one said this one said that one. You were told.
If the ball was dropped, who dropped the ball?
Who dropped the ball? Mm-hmm. Simple as that. Because this is a big ball that you drop. This is not a tennis ball. This is a cannon. And we cannot have this, particularly on the eve of Brexit. Or not the eve. This is what, literally a week after? I think a week or 10 days. I can't remember exactly.
January, what was it? January, that the Brexit, 20th of January?
Call it a month, right? When most of our protection for our industry has backed away. This is the time that you were supposed to be even more vigilant about the potential attacks on our industry. So I am sorry. I know there's a level of unity that is necessary as a country as a whole, and I am with the government to find a solution to the problem. What I am not with the government is as to I am not taking responsibility for who dropped the ball, because it wasn't the opposition, and that has to be clear. Our job as opposition members are to hold the government accountable for their actions, and somebody's actions has caused us to be listed the way we are now. And I'm not going to say any more than that. The government, I think they have a responsibility to come and talk to the people.
Well, I have heard some people comment and say, when you look at the list of names of those countries that are no longer on that blacklist. And sorry. And when we here in the Cayman Islands talk about the Cayman Islands and talk about our position in the world of finance and our regulations that we have in place here, the ease of communications and everything else, how did the Cayman Islands find themselves
on this list?
On this list? And when we look at other jurisdictions that we feel and we claim to be, much more advanced than they are,
and
they're
not on.
And they're not on there.
But OC,
but that sorry, Kenneth, that then leads into the question: why were we listed? Because we have complied, and I've been there throughout much of this, where we have complied with every requirement lobbed at us. We have gone in there. We have stayed very late in the night passing legislation. We have debated. And Kenneth is right. When the opposition gets called to go to the LA, we show up and we vote. And with very little fanfare and debate on these financial bills, we always stand up and say we're supporting the government, because we have to support that industry. So why did we get listed? Yeah. And someone has to answer that question, because I don't want anyone to say, well, collectively you guys messed up, because we didn't. We showed up and did our job. Okay. So someone needs to stand up.
I really want to add a little quick point on to that. You were talking about the fact that other jurisdictions who would not be to the standard that we are has been taken off the list, but we are still on there. So it alludes to some level of international politics. I think we all know that. I think it's obvious. But that's even the more reason why I'm disappointed, because that shows, and examples of that have been going on for decades now, that they treat us a little bit different than they treat everybody else. So you're supposed to know you do not give them an excuse to say, see, I told you so. Because that's what they've been wanting to say. Yes, Cayman is this. Yes, Cayman is that. We had to literally have the minister write to an international corporation to say, take Caymans off of international advertisement that showed us in a negative light. We know this is the perception that is out there. We know that there's people out there who want our demise. So we should never have given them the opportunity to be able to say, you didn't make the deadline, when it was in your control. It's as simple as that. There's no way to get around that. And I'm looking forward to hear what the government is going to respond to these claims. But I know they're going to try to work their way around with the magic of the tongue to say, well, it wasn't their fault. But I know it wasn't the EU's fault. They said, give you a date, you didn't do it. Why didn't you do it?
Okay. One of our listeners, switching gears for a minute, one of our listeners has written and said, good morning to you and your panel. Will the proposed referendum law deal with the peculiar, undemocratic system that currently exists, where a failure to vote counts as a yes vote in a referendum?
Well, that's a difficult question to answer, because it's the requirement for a referendum to pass. It's
in the Constitution.
It's in the Constitution. So I can't say that would change, because you have to have. Trying to remember.
For people's initiated referendum, it's 50% plus one.
Plus one,
but
of the registered
voters. Yes.
So unless you change that formula, it will.
It will require a constitutional change for that to take place.
If I can take a stab at this, because I understand what the caller's concern is, but I am one of those elected persons who are quite comfortable with that 50% plus one. And though it may be perceived as a person who does not come out to vote is being voted as a yes, because of how the formula is, actually what is actually intended to be is the opposite, which is you need to convince at least 50% plus one to be interested, to be involved, and to make that change. What it does is puts a stronger threshold. Now, I don't think the people would say, what happened if out of 22,000 people, only 1,000 people came out to vote, and we used a 50% plus one of those who came out, and then 501 said we want to port. people would go crazy. So there's a reason for that strong threshold. Now, if it was a government-initiated referendum, the opportunity to choose a different threshold is there. I have to agree on the part that the threshold has to be a little bit higher than the majority. That's what happened in Brexit when you were having so many people going back and forth. Should we have left? Should we have stayed? Should we have left? Because the margin was so close. If you have a threshold of 50% plus one of the registered voters, though in some cases that may seem against you because of what side you pick on that particular issue, the next time around, when you say, for instance, our Christian Foundation, somebody says, I'm going to get 25% of the population to say we want to take the church out of the schools, then you go, hold on, no. Just the majority of those who come out can't change that foundation. So it depends on how you look at it. I think that if there needs to be a change, it has to be a stronger threshold. If the issue is that important, you will get to the polls. So it puts a level of responsibility on the people, and I'm totally comfortable with that. We have to pay more attention to when there's a referendum. I mean, the fact that there's an election and there's 20% of the people don't show up sometimes hurts my heart. And we need to be more involved. Let's change the number of people participating rather than worrying about the threshold.
Yeah,
that's what we should be focused on.
That's the answer. Show up and vote. That way, you don't have to worry about those sorts of details.
Yeah. Okay. We have to take a commercial break, folks. Please stay, and we have a caller on hold. We will take that call as soon as we return from the commercial break. So please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, formerly known as Professional Pharmacy, would like to thank the Cayman communities for their loyal support these past 18 years. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care. Thorough background checks and follow-up consultations is only the beginning. Your safety is our concern. Our staff are respected healthcare professionals whose job requires careful and precise calculations. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, where we prepare to provide exceptional care. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we care about your health.
Rotary Club Central, in association with the Cayman Islands Health Services Authority, HSA, present Health Check 2020. Free health check, free mini medical consultation, diabetes, hypertension, and much, much more. Saturday, March 7, 10 a.m. through 2 p.m. Nurses, doctors, Rotarians in service to you. The Rotary Health Check 2020 at A.L. Thompson's, Foster's Airport and Countryside, Foster's Republics, and Kamana Bay. Costs you less. And Hurley's Supermarket. You may save your life. Rotary Central Health Check 2020. Your life, your health. Rotary, connecting the world.
Red Sky at Night. Terrific live music, actors, dancers, comedians, and poets. Over 100 artists and artisans selling paintings, crafts, jewelry, and accessories, as well as delicious local food. Red Sky at Night at the Harquail Cultural Center. Saturday, February 29th, 4 p.m. to midnight. Don't miss out. Tickets on sale now at eventpro.ky. A CNCF production. Sponsored by Hurley's Media, Pepsi, Caribbean Airlines, and Radio Cayman.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We have a caller on hold. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. O'Connor.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning.
Okay, and good morning to Deputy Leader Alva Suku and MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan.
Good morning.
Yeah, concerning the coronavirus and how it's spreading around the world very rapidly. Our herbal doctor, Mr. Kenneth E. Christian, has made it known to governments in the past and the present that he's cured people with AIDS, cancer, and diabetes with his medication. and the government continues to refuse to work with this man. And as the opposition, I would like for you all to bring this to the floor of the House. Thank you.
Caller, before you go, caller, how should the government work with him? In what way?
Well, let him be allowed to prove to them by anyone who is willing to accept his medication and use it, and prove to them that his medication does cure people. And he has mentioned to me that his medication is also able to cure the coronavirus. And all these people dying around the world, and it's just a matter of time before he gets here in the Cayman Islands. All these people dying around the world would love to meet this man and be able to use his medication to be healed, not only for the coronavirus, but also diabetes, AIDS, and cancer, and other illnesses that seem to be incurable. And it's not fair for the government to continue ignoring this gentleman the way that they are. If I was the Minister of Health, I would have Mr. Kenneth E. Christian in my office today and working with him in any way that I possibly can to prove to people that his medication does cure these type of diseases. But if they continue to ignore him and not work with him, then how is he able to prove to them that it does work? And I have a question. Why do they continue to ignore to work with him? And if the Cayman Islands government and the Cayman Islands was known around the world to have cure for AIDS, cancer, and diabetes and the coronavirus, and our government works with Mr. Kenneth E. Christian, that would be very good, not only for our country, but for all those around the world who are suffering from diseases. And as the opposition, and as a citizen of this country, I would like for you all to bring this to the floor of the House and ask the question, why does the present government and governments in the past continue to ignore Mr. Kenneth E. Christian and working with him with his medication in order to heal those people who are sick and dying?
Okay, got you, caller, got you. Gentlemen?
Well, is the caller still there? Or he's gone?
It's gone.
The question I was going to ask, I mean, he mentioned the coronavirus. For anything like this, and I know from the time that I spent when I was with the progressives, I think a discussion did take place with the gentleman to talk about giving the opportunity to prove that his medication did work. But I don't know if he took that forward. At that point in time, I don't think he did. I think he had concerns about people stealing his intellectual property and so on, or taking credit for it. He mentioned coronavirus. I mean, just a scientist in me asked the question, well, how do you prove that?
Yeah.
Because he would have had to have had samples of the coronavirus, people or persons who were infected and done trials, clinical trials and so on. So that claim, you got to be careful when you make those sorts of claims. I don't know if he's done any testing to say, yes, it does. But, that said, the science, the medical community, I'm sure, is where he would probably have to turn his attention rather than just the government if he does validly believe that he's invented medicine that is.
And there's no doubt that many of the medications that we have are plant-based medications. A lot of medicines. I had a colleague in school who, when he moved from the Cayman Islands, was working with a pharmaceutical company, and his job was basically to go into the forest, into the Amazon and places like that, and find these various plants that they use, for the basis of medication.
Yeah.
My mother had all sorts of plants, and Kenneth, your mother as well, all sorts of plants around the yard, and the traditional claims that are made in terms of what illness this one is good for and what illness that one is good for. And sometimes it works. Sometimes we believe that it works, and there's no doubt about it. But there are times when you just can't simply go to the plant-based thing and say, this is the cure for it. I personally believe, and I'm voicing my own personal opinion in relation to this, and my belief is that the claims are exaggerated when it comes to what this individual claims to have cures for. That's my personal opinion.
Well, if I can just add to it, in respect to the level of responsibility, I want to say to the caller first off, I don't think that anybody would not want to entertain the opportunity to cure these serious ailments. Everybody in the world wants to find those solutions, and I believe that genuinely. But there's a level of responsibility, particularly when you call the government into question. Mm-hmm. And I think what the caller was saying was not only government members, but opposition members, all legislators. There's a level of responsibility held on legislators to make sure that persons are not practicing something that is not proven, because the government can be held liable as well. So if there's no proof that this gentleman is capable of doing that, and then allows him to knowingly practice that, and something goes wrong, the Cayman Islands government can be held responsible knowing that he's behaving in this particular way and something goes wrong. I'm not suggesting that something would go wrong. I would love to know, but there has to be a tested process. Lab testing takes sometimes, in order for you to get medication, it takes 10, 15 years worth of trials and errors and testing, where I'm a big advocate for medical research here in the Cayman Islands as a new industry. And I've strategically not said much about it because of, people alluding to the fact that Uncle Thompson is something more to me and it's a political thing. So I've just left it alone. So I'm open to that, but you have to prove yourself first. Now, you heard my colleagues say that, there was reservations whereby he stepped back because of intellectual property. Well, if you are doubtful, there's ways to protect your patents. If you feel worried about that when the people find the cure for you, trust me, money won't be your problem if you find a cure for AIDS. You know what I mean? So I'm skeptical myself, or cancer for that fact. I am skeptical myself. I think Mr. Kenneth has a lot of natural herbs that he does, but to prove that, say for instance, you put a couple of different trees together and you boil a tea, and your cold goes away, how did you know it was because of the tea or the food you drank before? So it is a difficult process, but the government has a different level of responsibility. As much as we would want it, we can be held liable for other people's lives if we don't put those thresholds in place. So it's not about not wanting to work with him. And if I'm ever a part of a government that people see it fit that I do so, I'd be happy to entertain it, just to make sure that maybe the other governments before didn't give him the proper opportunity to present himself.
Okay, top of the hour, 9 o'clock, headline news at 9 o'clock. We have 2 callers on hold. We will take those calls as soon as we return from this break.
Follow Radio Cayman on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio Cayman.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news. Access.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
The National Roads Authority has issued a request for proposals for professionally qualified companies to provide contract traffic engineering and transportation planning services for the island of Grand Cayman. The deadline for submission is March 13th. You can head to cayman.bonfirehub.com for all the details. U.S. intelligence agencies have warned that Russia is attempting to help U.S. President Donald Trump get reelected in November. The comments came in a closed-door briefing to the House Intelligence Committee on February 13th. President Trump was reportedly enraged, complaining that Democrats would use the information against him. The New York Times reported that Mr. Trump was particularly angry that Adam Schiff, the Democrat who led the impeachment proceeding against him, was at the briefing. South Korea has stepped up measures to contain the spread of the deadly new coronavirus as confirmed infections increased sharply in one day. The prime minister said it was now an emergency as 100 new cases in the country's second death have been confirmed. All military bases are in lockdown after 3 soldiers tested positive. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the Record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, Deputy Leader of the Opposition and MLA, Mr. Alva Suku. Also MLA, Mr. Kenneth Brown. We have 2 callers, 1 voice note as well. We're going to take the caller who's been holding for a while. Okay, we're going to do the voice note first and then we're going to take the caller's voice note from.
Good morning, Mr. Connor, and good morning to your panel. I would just like to say in relation to the topic of the threshold required for passage of people-initiated referendums that I agree with Kenneth and Alva as to the threshold requirement being a good one for the reasons stated. However, I do not think that we have enough civic incentive, for want of a better term, for people to actually participate in these important votes and indeed in general elections. And I think that perhaps what needs to be considered is what they have in other Commonwealth jurisdictions such as Australia, whereby if someone who's a registered voter does not vote, they either have to have a valid excuse why they didn't vote, or they'd be subjected to a fine. They have to have that incentive because we need more participation, and people and the country cannot afford for our electors to be laissez-faire about these important issues. Thank you very much.
Okay, we want to thank that caller. Let's go to the phone lines now. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, caller.
Yes, on the subject of the island being blacklisted as a non-compliant jurisdiction, it is my opinion that the blacklisting is not an indication of failure, rather a mechanism used by the regulatory countries to steer the country in a certain direction. Now, when it is the intention of those regulatory countries to kill these industries, the financial industries of the other jurisdiction, then the question comes, how do you comply with every regulatory requirement? And I believe that the intention of blacklisting is to kill the industry by 1,000 pieces of regulation. Thank you.
Well, caller, before you go, caller, quick question. You there? I really want to ask the question because I agree that there is ill intent with the pressures, but that's not what I was trying to allude to. The thing is that there's geopolitics happening here, right? So they go put pressure on them here, make this deadline here. The one key factor that we've heard from as a Finco, the ministers' conference when they made the decision was that we didn't meet the deadlines. That's what the ultimate thing is. And this is why we're on the process of, okay, we missed it by a few days, so it looks like we're going to be delisted again very soon. So we're going on a positive light. But the fact
is, the reputational damage
is already been done.
Mm-hmm.
That's my point. You know? So the fact that a few days being missed is the excuse that's being used means that you shouldn't. You know that they want any kind of excuse whatsoever to do this to us. Why would you want to fail on something as simple as that?
And bear in mind the deadline was December 31st.
Yes.
We didn't even know that. As legislators, when we went into the LA, we didn't know that. We weren't told that. February 7th is the slippage from December 31st to February 7th. But we weren't even aware that this had to be done by then, because they could have easily called me in during December and said, look, we need to do this before the 31st. I would have gladly
I would have canceled Christmas because we wouldn't want something like this to happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, I get what he's saying. I think that he's the caller is basically saying that, you know, they will keep on putting the bar higher and higher and higher and higher and higher.
We expect that to happen.
But they have some international pressures themselves to not look too unreasonable. Now, they look like they're pushing it too much, but all they've said is, we think you should have this, and other jurisdictions should have this as well. They kind of pick and choose who are having it, but we agreed, okay, we will do that. And we will do it by this date. But we didn't accomplish that date.
The thing is that we have these tax justice people and those who leaked the Panama papers and all of that. One of these days, we hope that, and I'm starting to sound like Trump here a little bit, but WikiLeaks will come up with something from these OECD countries and these meetings and stuff like that, so that we can hear and we can see what they talk about and what their internal communications are in relation to trying to destroy the financial centers like the Cayman Islands. Because sooner or later that will come out, and even if we have to spend some money in the Cayman Islands to get someone to get that information from me. What was the guy's name now? Michael Steele. We need a Michael Steele. Yeah. We need a Steele, to get some information, from them as well, because there's no doubt that what they're doing is underhanded. And it is what their intentions are ultimately to try to destroy the financial industries in this country.
Fair enough. So we have a bad guy out there. My question is, and OC, I just don't want to be the only bad guy in this room. In your opinion, do you think there was enough of a good enough excuse not to meet the deadline?
I haven't heard the excuse yet, so I don't know what it is. But I do believe that there's sufficient time that the OECD gives you to ensure that you're in compliance. Now, whether or not the negotiations that has to take place with the financial partners, all of the industry partners here in the Cayman Islands in terms of formulating that legislation and everything. Because, for instance, you as legislators, you only see it when it comes to you to vote on it. There are discussions that are taking place, way beyond that with the financial partners and the government in that regard. We don't know how long those things, took to be in place. But I believe that it is important for the government to point out why the delay took place, because it is something that needs to be addressed later on. And like you said, if it means that you need the assistance of the opposition in that regard, if you stand ready to assist, then you should do so.
We always stand ready.
Yeah. Let's go. We have 3 callers. Let's go to the phone lines. I believe one caller has rejoined us. So caller, good morning. Welcome back to For the Record.
Yes, good morning again, gentlemen.
Good morning again, sir.
Yeah, herbal medication has been known to cure people from a long time ago. And you all know this for a fact. And the Bible says leaves are the healing of the nation. The cure for asthma are young marijuana trees without THC, if you boil them and drink them as a tea. And for you all to be giving your opinions on the radio in a negative way, such as what you did, Mr. Orrett Connor, in saying that this gentleman is, in your opinion, he's exaggerating. When you all speak in this way, and in the negative way that I heard MLA Brian and Alva Suku speaking, it doesn't seem like you all are willing to push this thing forward in a positive way in order for this man to prove and help those individuals who are willing to take his medication to be healed.
But caller, it's not. I'm going to say it's not just me. One of our listeners has written in and said, "How does he know he can cure the coronavirus if there are no cases here?" So, I'm not the only one who's skeptical.
Let me answer that. I spoke to Mr. Kenneth Christian concerning the coronavirus, and he said to me, Keith, my medication can also cure that, because any of these diseases has to do with your blood, and my medication can also cure that because it destroys any disease within the blood that causes these diseases. So how are you all going to know if it's true or not if you all don't work with him? And then again, if there's no cure for it, if there's no cure for the coronavirus, and the only option that people here in our country have is to let Mr. Kenneth Bryan, Mr. Kenneth Christian, allow them to take his medication to be healed.
Caller, there are pharmaceutical companies who end up paying millions of dollars because of malpractice or mal-application of their particular medicines. Do you realize and recognize what the government of the Cayman Islands would be exposing themselves to if they were to allow this person to use for them to officially sanction the use of his medicines without proper trials and without going through all of the procedures?
How is he going to get the proper trials and going through the procedures if he's not given an opportunity to work with the government the way that he needs to?
But maybe he needs to find an investor who's prepared to to collaborate with him on that. But I'm not sure that the government of the Cayman Islands needs to do that.
Caller, if I can just say this, and I'm sorry that maybe I've translated what I said before in a negative way or interpreted in a negative way. That was not the intention. I was just highlighting that there's a level of responsibility under the law that we have to adhere to, not to put the people at risk. But I did also say at the ending of my comments that, listen, if we were part of the government, we will give every opportunity for Mr. Kenneth Christian to come in and present his facts and information, because we all want those solutions together as well. We just have to be cautious. That's why the people elect us. But people wouldn't want us to go there and just go, oh, just because he says so, that it is so. There has to be a level of proof, and that's all we're saying. Mr. Kenneth Christian is a good man. A lot of people know him in the community, and I don't think he has any ill intention for anybody in Cayman. But we just have a level of responsibility that we have to commit for the people. And if I am elected and be a part of the government, I would give him that opportunity to prove himself. So I don't want you to think that I'm downgrading Mr. Kenneth in any capacity, because that was not the intention.
Okay, thank you very much, caller. Let's go to the next caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hello.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, OC. Elvis here. Good morning, Mr. Kenneth, Mr. Soko.
Good morning, sir.
Well, I wanted to tell me this now. Did the Cayman Island government vote unanimously to have marijuana extract subscribed to patients in the Cayman Islands?
Medical marijuana, yes. Medical cannabis, yes.
Oh, good. So now the government cannot be held responsible, right? Because it is proven, scientifically proven, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So tell me something, brother. Why is honor waiting for the Caymanians to produce their own product when we have everything we need? Sunshine, water, and rainfall. And a lot of young Caymanians out of work. And tell me that, my friend. Tell me and tell it to the next. Tell it to the water that's coming up now. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll try to take a stab at this. I believe in democracy. 100,000 gazillion %. Sometimes there's things that are good that the people are not necessarily interested in. And democracy is based on the people's choice. I think the caller knows that I am not opposed to creating legislation that will ultimately allow medical cannabis to be used for healing of ailments. But there is a public perception, a negative one, of marijuana and the misuses of it and what it can do to the humans, to humankind, as well, particularly children. It's for us to educate the masses on the benefits of it. And until the people are convinced in their own mind that it's okay to do so by way of majority, I would not introduce something like that. I believe in participatory democracy. Just because you may know that it's good for the people, that doesn't mean that you automatically impose it. A leader's job is to inspire and educate the people to believe it together, not to say this dictatorial type of approach to say, I know that this is good for you, so you're going to take it anyway. That's where the failings happen, because that same type of approach can happen in the reverse, to go, I think I know something is better for you, but I'm actually wrong, but I'm so in belief of it, like this doc that they're talking about, it's good for you, you're going to take it anyway. So we have to, sometimes we know things are right, but it's about the way you diplomatically deliver that idea, that thought, that policy, or the implementation of legislation. So I think, yes, we need more education. Most likely, I'm going to tell you, my bold prediction is that it's only a matter of time before we come around to that stage that we're going to be willing to embrace medical marijuana to cure ailments, because it's proven. And that's the difference between that and, unfortunately, Mr. Kenneth Christian, is that there's studies about medical marijuana and the benefits. People are just reserved because they're not certain yet. They know about all the dangers. We know what is done to our young people. We know what is done to big people too, if it's misused. But what we need to do is educate the public about, if it's done in the proper way, for the proper reasons, what the benefits are. And we just haven't done that because, you see, it's not politically sexy, OC. Nobody, if you say the word weed as a politician, oh, he's a weed head, or he like drugs. So it's about leaders who are willing to inspire and educate. And I don't think we have that at the helm right now. So that's what the problem is. And you will have new leaders coming, I believe, in the future. The Honorable Premier cannot be the Premier again. Maybe you will have a different leader that can properly educate the people about the benefits, but making sure that the negatives are to the minimum and putting regulations in place to say, okay, we can get the benefits out of this, but making sure that the negatives are at bay. So it's about timing, to be honest with you.
Okay, we have to take a commercial break. We have one caller who is on hold. We're going to ask that caller to hang in there. We will take that call as soon as we return from this commercial break.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
Rotary Club Central, in association with the Cayman Islands Health Services Authority, HSA, present Health Check 2020. Free health check, free mini medical consultation, diabetes, hypertension, and much, much more. Saturday, March 7, 10 a.m. through 2 p.m. Nurses, doctors, Rotarians in service to you. The Rotary Health Check 2020 at A.L. Thompson's, Foster's Airport and Countryside, Foster's Republics, and Kamana Bay. Costs you less. And Hurley's Supermarket. You may save your life. Rotary Central Health Check 2020. Your life, your health. Rotary, connecting the world.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're going straight to the phone lines as promised. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Thanks for being so patient.
Good morning, Mr. For the Record.
Morning, Doc. How are you?
I'm fine. Good morning to your guest, Mr. McPhail and Mr. Bryan.
Good morning, Dr. McPhail.
Yeah.
Good
So
to
Mr.
hear from
Bryan,
you.
This is to Mr. Bryan. I don't understand why you're apologizing to the caller when you were trying to educate them as to the system and the facts. You shouldn't be apologizing to them when you're trying to educate them. It's obvious that he does not understand and he does not want to understand what you're saying. You know, the gentleman who is the bush doctor has to be very careful, because you can't be selling people stuff and then assuring them that it's going to give them a certain results. There's penalty for that, you know, when you do that. And really, if he wants to have some recognition in the medical field, what he should do is take the ingredients of his medicine and go and have it recorded, as you have told his agent, and have it recorded where his property will be protected, and take it to one of the large pharmaceutical companies and have it tested, and see what the results are. I'm sure that if he has the cure that he's saying, he wouldn't be sitting down in West Bay. He would be out in New York or wherever these pharmaceutical companies are peddling his stuff to them to make money, and he would be making millions now. He'd probably be on the Mediterranean in the yacht, you know, because of the money he would make just for this new find. You have to be so careful, and it shows a lack of education among some of our people. Really, that's what it shows, and that's my first point. My second point is this position that we've now been put in because of the negligence, I would say, or the lack of astuteness by the people who we elected to represent us, and then those people who were elected in the position of decision making. The deputy leader alluded to that earlier in the conversation that you were having. I think, Mr. You said that not everybody is elected is an expert in everything. Some people don't even some people I knew got elected could hardly read and write. Because I remember one person who went to a conference one time, and they were very worried about the rising birth rate, and how you know the death rate was lowering because of the people living longer because of the advancement in medicine. And at this conference, this Caymanian representative was asked, well, what is the death rate in Cayman? Oh, he says, that's easy. We have one death per person.
Technically.
So, well, he was right, technically. You know? So, what we're lacking now, we are moving onwards into the 21st century. It seems to me that all of these institutions that we have to be players on the world stage, some of them are lacking. For instance, we do not have a diplomatic corps. You just can't elect people and put them into a cabinet, put them into a ministry, and expect that they have that expertise, and then send them all around the world. I mean, we have been accepting this because a lot of us don't know any better. But what we should be doing now is developing a diplomatic corps. If we had a diplomatic corps that was handling all of those things, that would not happen. Yeah. You see, that would not happen, and that's what we need to do. We need to develop these institutions, these international institutions now, because that's where we are. We are no longer now the place where they came in and you hide a suitcase full of money and you drive on the plane in the next half an hour and goodbye, and your lawyer call you a year after and say, this is the interest on your deposit. We are in the work, and I had that experience about the need for a diplomatic corps when I worked for Mr. McKeever Bush, and I was going to all the international conferences, and when I represented Cayman Islands in the UN, we have to stop playing these Mickey Mouse games and making these excuses and stuff and things that because the people are going to suffer. And one of these days it's not going to be just a blacklist, it's going to be something else.
Agreed.
Yeah. Dr. Macfield is right. And I'm very disappointed in the way we have shied away from doing things that he's suggesting because of the fear of being accused of supporting a push for independence. But the more you make yourself self-sufficient and the more you push your ability to operate independently, the better off you'll be, even if you don't go independent. Yes. But we shy away from that. And one of the things that I always complain about is the fact that we don't teach enough in the schools about civics and government. And since I've been elected, I have encountered so much, and I'm not going to say ignorance, but lack of understanding of what it is we do. What is it that legislators are supposed to be doing? Some people don't have a good, clear understanding of what our actual jobs are. And what they tend to do is lump us all together into one big group and say, you're the politicians, you're all powerful. And I give you an example. I was told that the opposition members were being criticized for not being in court for the ruling the other day. Now, I'm not sure how many people understand why we shy away from showing our faces in court. Because if a judge is come and there's a separation of powers, the court does their thing, we do ours. They don't ever cross. So you don't see the judges coming into the parliament. You don't see the parliamentarians crossing over into the court. And that's why if something is live in court, we do not comment on it. We can't comment on it. It's sub judice. There are rules around that. But why wouldn't I show up at the courthouse the other day when they're reading the judges giving his judgment? Well, because in the course of reading that, the judge, he or she, may comment on people who were there. My name may be mentioned, called, and it's going to go down on the record that I was there, and that will give the appearance that I was there trying to influence something. That's why I don't go to court even when relatives of mine are in court, because I can't, I shouldn't. I'm a legislator and I have to stay away and maintain that boundary, that division. Some of us do it, and sometimes you can get away with it, but we don't want and as we saw with the ruling from Chief Justice, where we thought that he overstepped the boundaries, and we said that the court cannot make law. In the same way, we have to respect that separation. We can't also cross the boundary and go in there and influence a judgment either.
Okay.
So we do that deliberately.
Okay. We have one caller on hold. We have a WhatsApp, and we have to take a commercial break. We're going to do a voice note, take a commercial break, and then take the caller.
Oh, see, we have to.
Yeah, we'll get to you. We're going to get to you.
Good morning, Mr. O'Connor, and good morning to your panel and your listening audience. Pertaining to the herbal doctor, I think you shouldn't worry too much about copyright because there's so much copyright protection out there right now, and just get him thing documented. And remember, we live in a cyber world. And the government part now, I think the government should assist him with connection to do some research and get the proper research done and present this to the people and let us show it work.
Okay, we want to thank that caller for that. Commercial break, and then we have a caller on hold as well. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Start getting your debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Mary Ann Radmacher once said, "As we work to create light for others, we naturally light our own way."
Calling all CICSA members. The Cayman Islands Civil Service Association Annual General Meeting is Friday, February 21st at the GAB Downstairs Conference Room 1038, starting at 12:15 p.m. A light lunch will be provided.
Come out and vote for your 2020 Management Council. Hear the President give his annual report, ask your questions, share your ideas, and make suggestions. You can also email your questions in advance of the meeting to cicsa@gov.ky. There will also be a door prize raffle of Cayman Airways vouchers, and the first 35 persons to sign in at the meeting will get a free gift.
Members, please make every effort to attend this very important upcoming annual general meeting. Remember, it's Friday, February 21st at the GAB Downstairs Conference Room, room 1038, starting at 12:15 p.m. Hope to see you there.
The 2020 Cayman Arts Festival is here with performances by the young, talented and versatile Lana Janjanin Trio, a musical mix of classical, jazz, soul and R&B. Saturday, February 22nd, 7 p.m. at the Camana Bay Cinema. Tickets are $40 US for adults and $15 for students. Tickets are available at www.caymanartsfestival.com. For more information, call 922-5550 or email inquiries@caymanartsfestival.com.
Seems like an illusion. For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, MLA and Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Alva Suku, also MLA, Mr. Kenneth Bryan. As promised, we're going to the phone lines. We're going to take this caller, and after this call, we're going to basically close off the phone lines because we want to give our panel here an opportunity to respond to so many comments that we have gotten as well. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Thanks for being so patient.
Morning, Mr. O.C. It's Johan Moxham. How are you doing, sir?
Good morning. I'm fine. How are you, sir?
All right. Morning to MLA Saku. Morning to MLA Brian. Just wanted to take the opportunity on behalf of CPR Cayman to call in and publicly thank all of the individuals, Caymanians, registered voters, who got this entire referendum, People's Initiated Referendum, off the ground by signing the petition. This was truly a grassroots initiative, and it was Caymanians working together. We obviously presented a strong case. We organized ourselves, and we've had some success as a direct result of the ruling coming from Justice Tim Owen finding in favor of Ms. Shirley Ralston, who in my mind is a national hero. She was the tip of the spear and the person that put herself forward to mount the legal challenge. But this thing started with average, everyday Caymanian people signing a petition, understanding, wanting to ask questions of the government, effectively exercising their democratic rights and engaging in participatory democracy, whereby we were successful in triggering the said threshold under Section 70 of the Constitution to get to the entire petitions, get through the petition stage to force a People's Initiated Referendum. Unfortunately, the government, we were proven correct. Whether anyone likes the personalities involved with CPR Cayman, we were proven correct in the court of first instance by virtue of the fact that everything that we've been saying from day one, every letter that we wrote, and there were 8 letters written to the Premier, to Cabinet, none were responded, none were acknowledged. Everything was legitimized and confirmed as a direct result of the ruling, but it would be irresponsible of me to not acknowledge the efforts of those signing the petitions, all the volunteers who gave their time, their effort, their energy, their resources, donors, but also those 2 gentlemen in the studio, MLA Saku, MLA Bryant, MLA Saunders, MLA Bush, MLA Ezard Miller. From a political standpoint, those gentlemen engaged, helped galvanize the people, walked with us when we were doing our door-to-door petition, signature collection, so on and so forth. So it was those that were engaged greatly appreciated. Some chose not to. but that's their prerogative. But it would be unfair if we didn't acknowledge the contributions of, I said, those named individuals and the persons that you have in the studio with you. So thank you very much on behalf of CPR Cayman. In that light, Mr. OC, we're looking forward to an invitation from the Voice of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman, to come and talk on your show and basically walk you through what we experienced, given the success that we've had with this outcome and the ruling of Justice Owen. Just moving on, looking forward to that. So you just let us know when, and we're happy to come and spend time with you and speak to the people on your show.
Certainly.
Other point I was going to make, Mr. OC, this is the crazy thing about Cayman, and I heard MLA Bryant, take this on earlier. Some people would question why he's putting his foot in the water, but I applaud him for asking the questions and engaging in the conversation. The government of the Cayman Islands, and me and them not really friends at the best of times, but I will say this, they did everything necessary to pass the pieces of legislation. They seem to do the heavy lifting to get the work done, but somewhere in the process, whether it was incompetence, negligence, or just downright arrogance, we got it covered. We didn't push the ball over the line, and that basically gave the EU economic commissioners exactly what they wanted, an excuse to put Cayman on a blacklist. Yes, politics is involved at the highest level. This is a direct fallout of Brexit as well. We shouldn't deny that fact or lie to ourselves about that. But the fact that we missed a deadline that we knew about 6 months and 9 months ago, at some point, somebody has to be held accountable. But more importantly, and I would think that lies with the cabinet, but specifically the Minister of Financial Services, because had things gone well in Cayman, not made the blacklist, the Premier, the Minister of Financial Services, they would be on your show in the press, walking us through all of this great achievements. But now that things have gone wrong, everybody seems to have gone quiet. If you're going to take the glory, you got to take the grief, and you have to explain to us exactly what happened, why the country is facing is on a blacklist, which has implications for the financial services industry and service providers. I'm an owner of a shop in financial services, so I'm seeing fallout from that. And the silence from the Minister of Financial Services is unacceptable. The silence from the cabinet is unacceptable, because really and truly, you did the hard work. And with regards to Minister Tara Rivers, you had one job, lady, just one job. And the proof is in the pudding. We are on a list as a result of something bad happening somewhere on your watch. That is the legacy that they're dealing with. Whether you like me or not, the reality is the Cayman Islands is on a blacklist as a direct result of the failings of the Ministry of Minister of Financial Services, the Premier, the Cabinet, because if you're going to take the glory, you got to take the grief. And, I look forward to hearing and getting some sort of in-depth explanation as to what happened and exactly what they're doing to get us off of this blacklist, because it does have consequences for us, and it impacts revenue that the government will take from service providers as a direct result of business potentially falling off. It would be helpful if they could also explain to the country, to industry, exactly why this shouldn't be causing the sort of panic, so that we can also share that with our clients, because everyone gets on the list or sees this in the press, and you get all the calls, you get all the emails, but we're not getting any sort of direction right now from the people who want the glory, but they're now quiet at the time when we need them to step up and explain what's next.
Got you, caller. I want to thank you very much for that. And certainly I think everyone's, looking forward to an explanation as to why. We saw in the case, remember Bermuda was put on it because their a few months ago, because their legislation was late as well. So they had to wait until the next cycle before they were actually removed.
So OC, you're saying there's an example of this already that the government could have learned from and not make this happen?
Several examples of it. I believe that this is the first time this is not the first time, even for the Cayman Islands, to be listed, in real life. Now, whether or not we were listed before as a result of late submissions or otherwise is another thing. But I'm citing the case of Bermuda to the fact that they did pass their legislation. It was passed late, and as a result of that, they were put on a list. They're off now. It wasn't because of anything that was done in between that period. It was just that
they were late.
They were late, and then
so you're saying
with the next review, then they were put back on it. So if Cayman has fulfilled all of the requirements except submitting on time, then the next cycle they should be off.
And that's the other thing we don't know, and what we need an explanation from the Honorable Premier and the Minister for Financial Services is the exact reasons now. Was it just the timing, or were there other issues as well? The country needs an explanation on that.
Yeah.
And I would have thought by now they would have held a press conference. They would have offered some explanations because they've had time to communicate and formulate a plan. But we're still waiting. So in with these types of situations, you can't wait too long.
Yes.
And you have to keep people calm and let people know that, assure people that we're dealing with it. So, I would strongly urge them to speak to the country very soon.
OC, if you allow me,
sure,
I just wanted to make a few comments on the good Dr. McFeel. He called in earlier and said some very good points, which I will lead into my last topic before the end of the show. Dr. McFeel said, that there was no necessary need for apologizing to one of the callers earlier. But I think it was appropriate because it is important for leaders that if they fail in their communication with their people, that they have to re-communicate again. Remember, we are only as strong as our weakest link. And even if I serve the people and that caller was a person that is a Caymanian, and sometimes we don't always get it right, even if a caller gets it wrong or if I get it wrong, the thing is to look at it as an approach to say we have to figure this out together. So it is incumbent upon me to make sure that I get it right because the people put me there to serve. So I apologize from the concept of I want us to work together. And that's what leaders do. Leaders try to embrace their people and bring them up with them rather than dictating to them. So that was the concept behind that. I'm confident in what I said, but I'm also confident that I need to be able to bring my Caymanians up with me regardless of the dialogue and conversation. The good doctor also talked about diplomatic corps for training ground for persons when they get elected. You can't just get somebody elected and send them off across the world to represent the Cayman Islands without having some diplomacy elements and training about how to deal with international matters, which leads me into my next topic of my announcement that I'll be leaving to go off to the UK today to represent the Cayman Islands, or the Legislative Assembly, should I say, in a cybersecurity workshop in the UK for the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. And it's interesting that the good doctor said about training and a good training ground. I believe these types of workshops and conferences throughout the Commonwealth as a part of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association is a good training ground for learning how to be an international representative. This is actually, I think, my sixth one now by now since I've been elected, and I welcome the opportunity to go to this training. As a matter of fact, let me take this opportunity now. Alva, thank you. Alva was actually the one selected to go, and he said, Kenneth, maybe you should go. And I embrace these types of opportunities because Dr. McFeel is correct. We need a diplomatic corps training opportunities for leaders that when they become a minister of cabinet, they can go out and represent the Cayman Islands. So I find this is my training ground to become a minister because it is my hope that the people select me and that I become a part of a government that I can represent the people in the cabinet. So I'm going off to this workshop, and just to give a quick review of what it's about, because cybersecurity is a real thing, particularly when we just get to talking about the financial services industry and the current outside threats that we have to deal with on a regular basis. But let me read this real quick. quickly and try to wrap it up. The cybersecurity workshop, to be delivered in partnership with the Ministry of Justice of the UK, the University of Oxford, and the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, has been developed to enable parliamentarians like myself from across the Commonwealth to build their capacity to legislate and scrutinize on cybersecurity issues. The objective of the workshop will be to explore and support the delivery of commitments in the 2018 Commonwealth Cyber Declaration, including raising awareness of the current cybersecurity threats and challenges. There will be discussions on existing international and regional laws and frameworks on cybersecurity, including the African Union Convention on Cybersecurity, Personal Data Protection, and the Budapest Convention on Cybercrime. The workshop will provide unique opportunity for participants to share in international and regional best practice across the globe, whilst considering ways in which the Commonwealth Parliaments can support each other in combating cybercrime and developing cybersecure legislation. Now, we know there's trillions of dollars that move through Cayman's networks on a daily basis. It's important that we are strong with this. I must also announce that the Councillor Barbara Connolly will be going with me as well, and we hope to empower ourselves as legislators to be able to better protect Cayman from a legislative perspective from cybercrime. That being said, the last thing I want to say about Dr. Macfield. My colleague highlighted the fact that they don't embrace persons like Dr. Macfield to be more effective in helping govern our country. And the sad part about one thing we do here in Cayman is it seems like politicians are afraid to embrace strong people. And I think that comes from the concept of governments being afraid to be outshined. No politician would like to be outshined. And I think we look at that. We should be looking at that in the reverse, because if I embrace somebody to come help me govern and they shine, that means I'm shining too. And that means my people are getting the benefit of it. And I don't know why we take that approach. We're afraid to say, because I know where my weaknesses are. I know where my strengths are. But when my colleague Alva wins, I win. When I win and Alva wins, the people win. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm saddened to know a person of the intellect and historical experience of 82 years, like Dr. Macfield, Dr. Steve Macfield, why he has not been embraced administration after administration. I have to give kudos to Honorable McKeever Bush for embracing him, but he should be on almost everybody's administration for the wealth of knowledge that he has. And I can tell you this, if Kenneth Bryan is a part of an administration that is governing this country, I will embrace every single opportunity I can to get that wisdom that he's built over those 82 years as a Caymanian. So Dr. Macfield, I'll say this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for your continued commitment to protecting the Cayman Islands in every capacity of legislative frameworks as well as civic responsibility. I love you and God bless you for that.
Okay. You know, I just want to say quickly, I had no idea he was 82.
Yep.
He doesn't look it. He certainly doesn't look it.
I think he's actually
84.
84. See, I can't even remember.
Well, yeah. But he takes good care of himself.
Oh, yeah, certainly does. He certainly does.
I also listened to him last Friday, and when he went through the constitutional changes and the overview that he gave, the very thorough presentation of all those changes, I was on a part of that negotiating team, and I couldn't have done as good a job as he did in explaining that and laying it out. Mm-hmm. So he really, I agree with Kenneth. You know, he's a gentleman that I have a lot of respect for, a lot of time for, and like many Caymanians who have that ability and knowledge, you know, he tends to get overlooked. But one thing we all know, history will be kind to him. Because he's contributed so much to this country.
Yes, so much. Yes,
and certainly, if I have anything to do with it, we will continue to respect and use him while he's still willing to do so to help further this country.
Certainly. We're going to take our last commercial break. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly. I want to, and I hope I can find it on something that I can read it. We have two things. Well, Maples did put out a statement in relation to, for their clients. But Cayman Finance did put out something because I want to make sure that I put that balance in there.
Yeah, they sent out a press release.
And to share that press release as well, I think that it's extremely important for that. But I can't bring it up on the big.
I think Tara forwarded me their press release.
They say the Cayman Islands has had a track record of meeting evolving global standards. Yeah.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes, Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard. 2020 means perfect vision. And if you have your sights set on driving a new hybrid, then the time is now to check out the new RAV4 and CHR. Hold up. Just two of the many hybrid models that Vamped is bringing to Cayman. Whether you're looking for a smoother and quieter way of driving or want a car that maximizes fuel efficiency while minimizing emissions, there are lots of ways a new hybrid from Vamped can make the difference in your life. Hybrids save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries without being plugged in. So focus your 2020 vision on a new hybrid from Vamped Motors, and we will see you through. Come to Vamped, home of the hybrid, located on Walkers Road.
So far, more than 175 Cayman parrot owners have registered their birds with the Department of Environment.
That's good, but we know it's not all of them.
You have until February 29th to sign up to register your parrot.
Unregistered Cayman parrots found in captivity after that will be considered illegal.
Remember, registration allows you to legally keep your bird. We don't want to take away anyone's pet.
So do what's right.
Register your Cayman parrot and help us protect our national bird.
For more information, contact the Department of Environment.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, MLA and Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Alva Suku, and MLA Mr. Kenneth Bryan. I believe I had an instance of a live mic there before, but I didn't say anything on there that I would not have otherwise said as well. And I want to thank the listener who sent me that quick WhatsApp to remind me that I was on mic. I think we realized it at the same time, but we're thankful for that. But as usual, we always want to ensure that we create a balance, that we get the correct information out to our listeners as well. You heard one caller saying that he hopes that the government will put out information because he's getting questions from his clients. I went back to my emails. I found where Maples has put out, a statement and an explanation to their clients as well. And also there was a press release that was sent out on the 18th of February by Cayman Finance, and I will share part of that with you as much as I can as time allows. And it says that Cayman's financial services industry supports government's efforts to be delisted by the European Union. And it goes on to say Cayman Finance fully supports actions being taken by the Cayman Islands government to constructively engage with the European Union officials with an aim to reverse an EU decision to include the jurisdiction on a list of non-cooperative jurisdictions for tax purposes. The article, the release goes on to say the Cayman Islands has had a track record of meeting evolving global standards, and that is expected to continue, said Cayman Finance CEO Jude Scott. As an organization, we stand ready to work with the government as it sees fit, as it cooperates with the EU to be removed from the list. We anticipate this decision will happen in the not too distant future. Mr. Scott noted that the Cayman Islands government recently introduced modernized legislation that enhanced the oversight of investment funds. This was in response to an evolution in global regulations, primarily driven by the European Union and other global standard-setting bodies. Just as approximately 30 other jurisdictions were removed from after taking the necessary actions, we look forward to the same happening with regards to the Cayman Islands. In the meantime, clients can continue to expect the usual high professional standards from their Cayman service providers that they have always received, Mr. Scott said. He noted that as a premier global tax-neutral financial hub, Cayman has adopted at least as many global standards for transparency as any G20 country and more when agreements specific to international financial centers and UK overseas territories are included. The jurisdiction proactively shares tax information with more than 100 other governments under the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, Common Reporting Standard. This assists those countries in the collection of taxes, regardless of what their unique taxes are on. Cayman was recently rated by the OECD as largely compliant, the second highest of a 6-tier rating, with the International Standard for Transparency and Exchange of Information. The same rating given to G20 countries like the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and the EU member states, Australia, Belgium, Denmark, and Germany. And it goes on. And I just want to point out that the US, I believe, was on that list. The most recent list as well. So it seems as if the financial services industry in the Cayman Islands, they understand what's going on. They know what happened, and they expect it to be resolved.
Well, first thing I want to say thank you so much to the Mr. Jude Scott. He's such a comprehensive and detailed person, and I appreciate what he does for Cayman finance and our industry, because he's so capable of what he does. But the Cayman Finance was not elected by the people. Cayman Finance is not the government. I wish the government would give such a detailed press release. That's what I expect from our government officials, from our minister, from our premier. I mean,
the premier did make a statement in relation to
it, but it was very short and again very ambiguous as to what transpired. So that's what we're talking about. The people want to hear not from Cayman Finance as into why we're here, what we're doing moving forward, and how the lay of the land is, which was outlined by the good man Jude Scott, is appreciated in its good context. But the truth of the fact is we need to hear from the government. The people elected the government. We want to know what went wrong. Could it be prevented? And did we make a mistake here? And I mean, Cayman Finance outlined the fact that, what we can do to get off of it, and that's good news. But we need to make sure that this wasn't a slip by somebody who was irresponsible in their duties.
Okay. One of our listeners said that they still wanted to hear from you in relation to the question of additional civic responsibility being placed on electors to participate in elections, and reference there is very little officially in place to foster a sense of civic responsibility. And I believe the caller referred to Australia, where there is an obligation for you to vote, and if you don't, then you're fined, and whether or not we should have something similar in the Cayman Islands.
Well, I'm one of those liberal-minded people who believe that if you don't want to vote, then that's also your right. So I don't want to go down the road of forcing people to come out and vote. But there are other ways you can encourage. And the only way to do that is through education and making people aware of what difference it makes. So a lot of people will say to me, well, what's the sense of me voting? It ain't going to make any difference. But it does. Every vote counts. And politicians especially respect numbers. If we respect votes. So if you want to make a difference in your country, let your politician be aware that you have a vote and you have a say, and they'll respect that. Mm-hmm. But if you shy away from it and that responsibility and say, well, I don't know if I believe in voting or if I'm going to even come out and vote, that politician isn't going to take you too seriously. They fear numbers. So that is how people have to view that whole dilemma of, how effective is it when I vote, or if is it going to make a difference. That's how it makes a difference. Collectively, we listen.
Okay. I just want to say it was a pleasure to be on here. We want to give apologies to the leader of opposition. He had an engagement in East End this morning. We totally forgot to say that. He will hopefully be here on Friday next week. So we give apologies for him. It was a wonderful show today, and on behalf of all the members of the opposition, it's a pleasure to be here, and we look forward to next week Friday. So we appreciate it. Yourself and the good, lovely lady, Miss Suzanne, in the back. We appreciate it. God bless the people of the Cayman Islands.
Speedy recovery to DJ Lynn.
Yes, that's correct. Speedy recovery.
Well, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for being here as well. Certainly a very informative discussion that we had this morning on various topics as well. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, wherever that may be. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. I urge you to continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Banks at 12:15 for Talk today. Join me on Monday. I believe we expect to have the governor on for one segment of the show as well on Monday. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only two species that we have here on the island.
Your voice, your choice.
For today's biggest news.
Access. Information. Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team. Today's